Thank you, Abby. Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Pensions Subcommittee on the 24th of June 2025. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be made available for viewing through the Council's website. Remote participants, please follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones, switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting. Writing speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute. If you are in the hall, you can do this on your iPhone or iPad. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted in the chat function if it is intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function and then join when rejoining the meeting, so we can keep track of whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly, taking their time and speaking directly into the microphone when making contributions. When referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. We have several important reports to consider today, and I anticipate we will deal with the business in our usual efficient manner. So we go to agenda item 1, which is the Sethering. Apologies and Chair's approval of members' remote participation. Claire.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I should say, since the papers were published, there's been a couple of changes. We've got a change in Chair to Councillor John Campbell, and Councillor Ingalls has also joined the committee. So we have 6 pension sub members present this morning, 2 in the hall, being the Chair and Councillor Hislop, 4 on Teams, being Councillors Dorvard, McFarlane and Johnston and Thompson, 2 not present, being Councillors Dryborough and Ingalls, and there's 3 vacancies on the Pension Subcommittee. We also have a number of Pension Board members present in attendance this morning. There are 7 board members present, all present apart from Moira Weatherup. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire, and I'd like to welcome Councillor Ingalls to the subcommittee. So we'll move on to agenda item 2, which is declarations of interest. Do any members have a declaration of interest or a statement of connection? Don't see anyone coming in. Okay, we'll just move on to agenda item 3, which is the Pension Board membership and the election of chair. This is a procedural report to ask the Pension Board to nominate a chair for the year ahead in line with the Local Government Pension Scheme (Governance) Scotland regulations. The report also provides members with an update on the membership of the Pension Board, with 2 new representatives taking up posts. I am pleased to welcome Heather Jones from Dumfries and Galloway College and Stephen Martin representing the GMB Union. We'd also like to thank Phil McGrogan for his service on the board, as he will be stepping down as a Unison member pending final confirmation. I now ask the Pension Board to put forward a nomination for a chair from the employer side of the board. Councillor Maureen Johnson.
Good morning, Chair. I would like to propose that we Councillor Tony Beretti for Chair of the Pension Board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone happy to second that? Councillor Walters.
Yeah, I'll be happy to second that.
Thank you very much. Are there any other nominations? Don't see anything coming forward. So you're duly nominated as Chair of the Pensions Board, Councillor Beretti. would you like to come in and say something?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I should say I'm pleased to be re-nominated as Chair of the Board, and with the confidence of my fellow team members to present at least another year of hard work and diligence.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we'll just move on to... Sorry, Councillor Walters, your hand's still up. Is that a legacy hand?
Yes, it is. Sorry about that.
Okie doke. We'll now move on to agenda item 4, which is the minute of the previous meeting on the 6th of May 2025. Are members happy to approve? Agreed in the room? Silence online. I'll take that as acceptance. Now move on to agenda item 5, which is the internal audit assurance for 2024-25 and the plan for 2025-26. Internal audit have been prepared this report to comply with the internal audit standards and provide assurance on the adequacy and effectiveness of the funds framework of governance, risk management and the control for financial year of 2024-25. There is also a brief summary of the planned work for the year 2025-26, and we have Richard Fox is in attendance to answer any questions members may have. So I'll open it up to members. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Chair. Morning, members. I'm looking at page, well, I've got a number of questions. I'm looking at page 20, and certainly the first bullet points I find very reassuring. The fact that certain officers are allowed to sort of do the inspections that they do to provide the confidence in the process and to make sure that things are being picked up where they should be. Number 4.7 on page 20, it says 40 out of 43 were known, and it just concerns me a little bit that we know about these, but they haven't been acted upon immediately as a means of making sure that they're not there. And then when we look on at the next page, on page 21, it says that in the very last line of the first paragraph, mostly on a casual basis. So it'd be interesting to understand what mostly means. And then in 4.11, I was wondering if we could use tell me once. Now, I noted that somewhere else in the papers it does actually make reference to tell me once as a means of providing some sort of reassurance. Unfortunately, I haven't cross-referred it, so hopefully I'll be given that information here. And then on 4.13, do we have an idea of the value of overpayments and what sort of percentage that is in either monetary or numbers terms? And how many are there, just for a sense of scale? Thank you. I appreciate there's quite a lot there, but if you could, that would be great. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Councillor McFarlane. I'll hand over to Richard to see if he can address most of those points.
Thank you, Chair. As members will be aware, this is the National Fraud Initiative, which is led by the UK Government. One of the reasons that there are some false positives within the matching is there is a time delay between the data being submitted for matching, which is in December of the year, and the day when the matches come back, which is a couple of months later, by which time the pension section have received the information and updated the records accordingly. So whilst the matches were actioned on a timeless basis this time, that still leads to the 40, shall we say, false positives. There was only actual three cases which were found, one of which was already been stopped due to the bank returning the payment and 2 other small value payments. I think overall, if I may say, that the NFI exercise actually provides good assurance on the adequacy and records of the pensions records. To move on to the second question in terms of the abatement, as the paper says, it is not council policy to abate pension except in cases of early retirement and voluntary severance where additional benefits were provided to the member, where it is a statutory requirement to abate the membership. It is, as the paper says, roughly half the matches are flexible retirement, which is a council policy in line with statute. There are some employees who actually choose to come back to us after retirement on a low value basis. We would not abate those pensions. It is only normal to abate pensions, as I say, when they've had voluntary severance, and one case of that was found, and so one person's had their pension abated as a result of this exercise. In terms of the Tell Us Once system, the Tell Us Once system in terms of mortality is if I understand it correctly, is a process when you register a death, the registrar will invite us to say, are there any people who would like to tell about this death at the same time? And we will automatically be notified as part of the death as that process, and that picks up most cases. It saves an individual or the bereaved person, shall we say, having to contact numerous people, and it actually takes away a lot of the distress and improves our efficiency at the same time. Overall, there are not a great deal of overpayments that I'm aware of, and I think the records are good. I'm hoping that answers most of your questions, but happy to come back to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Councillor McFarlane?
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Richard. I appreciate that. And I understand they tell me once that I have made use of it, and it should actually save some distress in having to chase around and try and sort things out. Just that last one there, 4.13, overall opinion is that sound systems, internal controls are in place, but excuse me, there's a phone going.
Okay, I'll come back to you on that. Anyone else got any questions, comments? So I've got David Stainthorpe from the Pension Board.
Thank you, Chair. If I could take you to Appendix 1 of the report. Item 1 on that is review the constitution of the Pension Board. The risk is non-compliance with best practice, and the current position was that it was being aligned to the policy statement agreed in December 2024. Now, at that meeting in December 2024, the board met separately throughout the course of that meeting, and the board's decision was that it wasn't content with the policy statement meeting best practice and wanted to look at that again. So I'd just like that to be noted as the board's position at that point. Since then, the board hasn't been able to meet again. So that remains the position of the board.
Okay, taking on board your comments. I've got Councillor Walters.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, just following up on the comments about 4.10 about abatement. Can somebody just clarify to me what that actually means when you're talking about they will not abate pensions of pensioner members, and does that apply to people who are employed in the private sector as well as people who are re-employed by the council?
Richard.
Thank you, Chair. I'm always happy to be corrected by the experts in the room. But my understanding of abatement, this is a local government pension scheme, so it applies to local government pensions only. So as an example, if an employee who's drawn a council pension chooses to go and work for the NHS, the council pension would not be abated in those circumstances, nor for a private sector pension. This solely relates to local government pension schemes, whether with this council or any other local government body in the UK. Thank you.
Thank you. Has that been helpful, Keith?
Sorry, I didn't explain what abatement means. What does it mean when you say in the report it will not abate pensions of pensioner members?
My apologies, Chair. Abatement simply means the value of pension benefits will be reduced. I don't actually have access to the detailed formula, but if you earn over a certain amount, then your pension will be reduced because you've got that extra employment in local government. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Councillor Walters. Councillor McFarlane, do you want to finish off what you were saying earlier?
Yeah, thank you for accommodating me, Chair. Sorry about that. It was the NHS bothering me. Yes, it was that 4.13. I was just wondering if we are able to put a value on the overpayments, what sort of percentage that is of the amounts that we pay out, just to get a sense of scale. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard?
Thank you, Chair. I don't actually have an exact value at all. I just know it's a very low value. Thank you.
Is that? Yeah, I've been assured by the finance officer that we can get that information and provide it. Is that okay?
Appreciate that, thank you.
And I take it you provide it to all members. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks very much. Anyone else want to come in? I'll take first time speakers. Councillor Hislop and then back to David Staithorpe.
Just based on what Mr Stainthorpe said, who actually has the final decision on whether the alignment to best practice and policy statement, is it the committee or is it the board? Because if the board isn't happy, then it would say that we wouldn't meet the September deadline, but if it's the board that sets the terms, sorry, the committee that sets the terms for the board, then that would go ahead. But if the board's the ones who set the stipulation, it could be going on, so we wouldn't hit that target.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. I've got Jackie Holland online. Don't know if you can come in and assist with that.
Yes, I can. My understanding is that the committee made the decision that the policy statement was accepted, so it is the committee, but we are planning to present a workshop and seminar on the roles and responsibilities of the committee and the board shortly, and Karen Donaldson can give you more advice on that.
Thank you. David Stainthorpe.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to comment on the answer that was given and the question that was asked, and also what I said earlier. I'm not entirely clear as to whether the board's position would remain the same as it was in December, because things have moved on. For example, in December we were told that the subcommittee chair would be required to chair board meetings, and that was what happened on that day in December. Since then we've realised that that's not the case, and so that's a clarification which might support the change in the board's view. But I thought it was important just to represent the last opinion the board had on that, because we haven't met since. The question I was going to ask was actually a supplementary one to the abatement question, and I just wondered, we have a number of admitted bodies in this fund, so if you work for one body that's in the fund and then retire and then get a job with another body that's in the fund, would the fund be looking to an abatement for in those circumstances, or is it just specific to the employer where you worked previously?
Thank you. Richard?
My understanding of the scheme is that it's with any body within the local government pension scheme in the UK-wide. So if that was the case, then yes, it would be abated if you go from one admitted body to another. But I'm happy to be corrected.
If it's an admitted body, then no. If it's a scheduled body, then yes.
Thank you. Has that been helpful? Getting a thumbs up. Yeah, and we do recognise your comments about the board's position. I don't know, is there something that we can do to take that forward to, or we are where we are? I don't think there's anything else that we can do at this moment in time. So, Councillor Baretti.
Yeah, I think it would probably be in best interest if the board are allowed to have a meeting as soon as we can possibly maintain one. Either I'm not certainly be able to do it before the recess, but would one be able to be fitted in where we could have this discussion?
And that would be chaired by myself. Is that correct? Paul?
My understanding, and Jackie will correct me if I'm not right on this, my understanding is that it was agreed that there would not be kind of formal meetings of the board separately, but the board could meet at any time, but it would not be treated as a formal board meeting. That's my understanding. I can maybe just check with Jackie, is that that correct in terms of how that's been presented there?
Jackie?
Yes, and thank you through you, Chair. Yes, that's correct. There's nothing to prevent the board members meeting separately on their own if they wish.
Yeah, just like you met this morning on your own, so I think that's where we are at that. I'm not sure what kind of meeting that you want to take place, David.
Thanks, Chair. Well, we've had a meeting where we decided that in relation to this governance arrangement we weren't happy and we wanted to look to reference it back. Now that hasn't actually happened because we haven't had the further meeting to actually do that. And as I said earlier, I don't know if we would want to do that now at this stage, given that there's been a few clarifications. I don't want to get into a whole discussion again about the pension board's reasons for having that opinion, but I think we do need to have a meeting to discuss those. And in the governance document as it stands now, the position is that if the pension board wishes to have a meeting, it asks you, the chair of the pension subcommittee, if you're content for us to have a meeting, and if you are, then we can go ahead and have a meeting. So that, I think that's the position that Councillor Beretti's asked you to clarify for us. Are you content with us to have a meeting at some point in the future so we can further consider our opinions on this new governance arrangement?
Thank you, Paul.
As was said, I don't think there's anything preventing the board from having meetings. No, it would not be a formal board meeting. It would be a meeting of the group, and the views of the board could be presented back to the committee at the subsequent joint meeting.
David?
No, thanks, Chair. In that case, I will have to get into a discussion about the reasons why the pension board isn't happy, because the pension board isn't content to have informal meetings where it makes decisions or where it's expected to make decisions. That is not the way that the pension board wishes to do business. It's not the way the council does business. You have formal meetings, you make decisions. We want to do the same.
Paul?
Yep. Obviously, this is a matter that has been subject to quite significant discussion with the board and with the committee as well. The advice I've reflected this morning and Jackie's confirmed is basically what has previously been agreed. That's what's reflected in the policy statement that was agreed by the subcommittee, and I think it was December. So we're following that arrangement at the present.
Thank you. So we're at an impasse, David.
Well, we're not if you give us the right to have a meeting, which is entirely within the governance arrangements that you've imposed upon the board. If you don't want us to, if you don't want to do that, then yes, we're at an impasse. We can't meet to make a decision, and therefore we would be continuing to ask you to formally record the dissent of the board with regards to the governance arrangement.
Thank you, Paul.
Just to say, look, I don't think there's anything preventing the board meeting. No, the subcommittee is not saying you can't meet informally, but what we're saying is that would not be a formal supported governance meeting. That's what's reflected in the agreed policy.
David?
That's not true. What's in the agreed policy is that if we ask the subcommittee chair if we can have a meeting and he says yes, then we are entitled to have a meeting. That's the position that Tony's asked for. It's not for officers to say we can't meet, it's for the the subcommittee chair to say whether we can meet or not.
Paul?
I don't think there's anything further I can add. I don't know if Jackie can help clarify, given that there is obviously a kind of a difference of views in terms of what's previously been agreed.
Jackie?
Thank you, Chair. The policy statement says that there's no process at the moment to allow the board to have a separate meeting without the approval of the chair. So in exceptional circumstances, I would imagine that the chair might concede, or if the subcommittee thinks there's a need to have a meeting. There's nothing, as Paul has said, to prevent the board members having their own meeting whenever they wish outside of the process. But if there's a case to have a separate meeting, then that needs to be put to the chair.
And just to be absolutely clear, you said that the subcommittee, if there is a need, if they recognise there's a need for this meeting, then it can take place. So it's really the subcommittee's decision.
Yes, it is. It is at your discretion, Chair, whether you think that there should be a separate board meeting.
Okay, so I'm in the hands of the subcommittees. Councillor Hislop.
Chair, I may be misinterpreting some of what Mr Garrett's saying, but he said it wouldn't be supported through governance. Now, does that mean to say officers would be present to put forward the relevant facts at this meeting, or would the board be left to discuss what they think the situation is? You know, is it supported as in, these are the facts, would they have formal papers or, well, informal papers to advise them? Because how do we know that the decision they make at an informal meeting that does no governance actually happened? Were they caught it? You know, or is it just somebody turned up, oh well, nobody else is here, I'll take forward what I want? You know, if it's not formal in at least some sort of process, it would suggest that we might get information coming back from the board that isn't the board's view, but could be one person's view.
So I take it you would support that going forward?
Just clarification on what they mean by not supported by formal governance, because you know, they could have a meeting tomorrow to discuss something, there's no papers there because there's no formal governance, so they then feed back to say, actually we don't agree with this because we believe X, Y and Z. Well, X, Y and Z may not be the case because they've not been given the fullest of facts. So it seems a bit strange having a meeting where we don't know if the board's being supplied with the proper information.
Okay, all right. I'll bring in Paul. I don't know if Jackie wants to come in on that one as well, but Paul first.
No, just to say that my understanding of the arrangement would be that the meeting of the group, without being a formal governance supported meeting, would be one similar to a political group meeting whereby there's not formal papers, there's not formal officer support for these meetings. That would be my understanding. This is information that has been subsequent to significant discussion all through the member seminar and discussions to the subcommittee and board at the tail end of last year. I think it was reflected at those meetings that it is very unusual in terms of LGPS schemes in Scotland for boards to meet formally, separately from the subcommittee, and that was considered, and that's what's reflected in the policy statement that was agreed by the subcommittee. But what I was meaning in terms of that would be, it would not be a formally supported meeting in terms of there being a formal set of papers, minutes, quorum and so on. It would be similar to political group meetings in terms of a more informal approach.
Thank you. You get anything to add, Jackie?
No, that's exactly correct. That's my understanding too.
Yeah, and I'm getting nods from Councillor Hislop. So any other subcommittee members got an opinion, comment, where we take this? Don't see anyone wishing to come in. So I think we're probably exhausted what we can do at this moment in time. So it's been reiterated so many times that you can have as many meetings as you want, but you know, informal meetings, but to have a separate meeting with reports and things like that. I don't know what your intentions are at this moment in time, so I don't know where we can go with this. David?
Well, just to make it really clear, Tony's asking if we can have a meeting of the board. The purpose of that meeting is to consider the position that the board has regarding the governance arrangement, because at the moment that position is that we don't support it, and that has to be reflected in this audit statement. However, we've got till September to consider that. Political group meetings don't make decisions. Council meetings make decisions. Political group meetings aren't the reasonable way forward for the council, and certainly the similar process is not a reasonable way forward for the board. We have to be able to have a meeting if we want to make a formal decision. And that's what we're looking to do now. We're looking to make a formal decision on the board's views and the governance statement. Now, as I said, I'm not entirely clear that the board views are the same as they were in December, but what they were in December, in a properly supported and minuted meeting, was that we did not accept the governance statement. So if you want to change that as part of this process regarding the audit statement, then the only way to do that is to allow us to have another meeting where we can make that decision. We can't make it informally, we can't make it in a wee quiet corner, because like Ivor said, that is entirely the wrong way to be doing things. You can't just expect a couple of folk to meet in a corner and make a decision. It has to be done formally and properly. I don't mind whether we meet or not, but if we don't meet, then this audit statement and other documents in here that refer to the governance arrangements need to record the board's dissent with those arrangements. And I think my preference would be, rather than make any decision here right now, because it really isn't what this agenda item's about, I would prefer that we have an offline discussion with the new subcommittee chair, who I believe is solely the person who can make that decision.
Thanks, David. I'm sure that Jackie had mentioned something about a seminar on the roles and responsibilities, and I don't know if, Karen, have you got details of when the seminar will be? We can take that further discussion rather than having to make a decision today. So if the board are content with that as a way forward, and then we see where we can end up. Jackie, do you want to just reiterate that seminar that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, we're just checking the dates at the moment, so we haven't quite got a date yet, and I think Karen will give a better idea, but I believe we're aiming to hold that workshop around prior to September, I believe.
And just to add to that, my recollection on the governance side, it's done by legislation anyway, so we have to follow the legislation, and that's something that this committee or even the board can't change.
That's correct. Well, the Dumfries and Galloway governance policy statement has been accepted. It was accepted last year. So I think the points that Mr. Stainthorpe make should be hopefully explained in great detail and talked through at the seminar that we're proposing, which will outline the roles and responsibilities both of the pension board and also the subcommittee.
Thanks very much. So we could have a way forward. Tony, Councillor Beretti.
Yeah, I think rather than running this out, we should at least take this offline and take that suggestion, because otherwise we're not going to get through the rest of this agenda. I know that there is this en passe at the moment, but I feel that it would be better served if we had that discussion beyond this committee.
Okay, thanks very much. So can we move to the recommendations? Okay, so members are asked to note the internal audit work completed. 2 is to note the outcome of the National Fraud Initiative. Sorry, am I in the right one? Yes. 2, to note the outcome of the National Fraud Initiative exercise for 2024-25. Receive the Internal Audit Manager's Assurance Report for 24-25 and note the comment on planned work for 25-26. And the action is that we will have a seminar and try and find a way forward for the pension board. Are we happy to agree that? Okay. So we'll now move on to agenda item 6, which is the Dumfries and Galloway Council Pension Fund unaudited accounts for 24-25. This report presents to members the pension fund's unaudited, try and get that word out, unaudited annual report and accounts. Members are being asked to note these accounts, which will then be submitted to Audit Scotland for external review. Audit Scotland will then bring a report on their findings to the September meeting of this subcommittee and board. The accounts were circulated to members on the 19th of June in advance of this meeting. It is recognised that the accounts are a large document and detailed consideration of the accounts is not required today. This can be done through the public consultation process throughout July, and the subcommittee will have more time to consider the accounts and audit findings at the September meeting, when the audit report will be presented. So we've got Karen Donaldson and Ross Fraser are here to assist with any initial questions members may have. So I'll open it up to everyone. Nobody online. Councillor Hislop.
Not a question, just a comment, just to thank the officers for bringing the accounts in on time, as they usually do, and just to note that they've been presented today.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that's welcome. Don't see anyone else coming in, so we'll go to the recommendations. So the recommendations was members were asked to note the pension fund unaudited annual reports and accounts for the financial year ending on the 31st of March 2025, and that was in the appendix which was sent out, which will be submitted to the external auditors for review. Thank you. We'll just move on to agenda item 7. This report is the Dumfries and Galloway Council Pension Fund Risk Register. This report provides the 6-monthly review of the Pension Fund Risk Register. The report shows that 6 risks have improved in the last 6 months, with 1 risk declining. The improvement of the risk is attributable to the implementation of the resources review and the mortality and members tracing services, which was agreed at the last meeting of this subcommittee. We've got Ross Fraser and Eiley Herrick are available for members' questions. So I'll open it up to members. Don't see anyone wishing to come in. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Number of questions based on the risk. Looking at page 36, firstly. It's about the internet and the firewalls and cybersecurity and such like. I'm just wondering what systems we have in place, and the fact that the current risk is the same as the target risk, and I would be thinking that we were hoping to get that into the green as opposed to leaving it where it is. And do we have any indication of any attempts at trying to breach our systems in relation to cybersecurity? On page 40, it says that fund investment failed to deliver anticipated returns. It says that we've got a good funding level, 122% at 2023 valuation, so we're well over. The current risk is still in the red, however. So why is it in the red when we're 122% over what the capacity is for that? In page 41, in the latest position, risk could be improved by the utilisation of member tracing and bank account verification. So are we doing that? And if so, where are we in that process? And on page 43, what can we do to get into the green? We're sitting in the yellow at the moment. And the impact, sorry, what page is it? Yeah, the impact is fairly significant, but the likelihood is fairly low. I'd prefer it if we could move into the green. So what, if anything, can we do to do that? Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'll pass over to Ross.
Thanks, Chair. If I can just take them in turn, in reference to your cyber security question, we follow the Council's policies on cyber security, so we will be notified whenever anything attacks the Council network. we've not been notified of anything in that regard, and like we've got the policies in place that follow the council, so we would be notified by their BTS department if that was the case. In terms, if I'm following right, the next one was to do with the funding level. The funding level of 122% at the 23 valuation was at that specific point in time. And as you know from the quarterly updates that Ian provides, the valuations can move depending on market conditions and what's happening out with the fund control. So although we were 122% funded at that point in time, we need to maintain the valuation level going forward, and that's why we've got the investments that are in place. I lost track of the next one. The member tracing and mortality screening, if I can pass that over to Isla, it's her team that are picking up on that one.
Thanks, Ross. Isla?
Thank you, Chair. Member tracing's in place. We've procured that service as part of pensions dashboards. Bank verification comes at an additional cost and would actually be something that would have to be done through iTrent, because we make our pension payments are all made through the council's payroll system and not through the pension system. So that would be subject to further discussion.
Thank you. And I think you had a final question, Ross.
Thank you. Yeah, in terms of the MiFID II status, that entitles the fund to certain investments which would be which are only available to us because we've got that MiFID II status. If we lost that status, then that would restrict the types of investments that the fund could pay into, and therefore that could have an impact on the investment returns that we get, which is then again linked to the previous point on the valuation process. So maintaining that status gives us more avenues of where we can invest the fund's money.
Thank you, Ross. Has that been helpful, Councillor McFarlane?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just if I could ask Ross again, please, in relation to the 122% valuation, he was saying that it was obviously it's subject to fluctuation. Is the reason that our performance isn't, or the risk isn't better? Is it because that actually we need 200% valuation, or at what sort of point would we be moving that from the red into the yellow and then trying to achieve our target, and why haven't we got a target set in green? I'd just like a bit more understanding around why that valuation was still not performing as well as we could be. How do we get to perform better? Thanks.
I'll bring Paul in for this one.
Yep, no, thanks for the question, because this is a key area of consideration for the subcommittee in terms of the investment performance for the fund. I don't the fact that the marker is in red at the moment is not a reflection on the fund performance or the performance of our existing arrangements. It is simply a reflection of the fact that there is significant volatility in relation to investment returns, and therefore this is always going to be an area of significant risk for the fund. The fund does have very good arrangements in place for risk management, which we've discussed earlier today, but also through the diversification of the current investment strategy. But really that's the placement of that marker is just a reflection of this is always going to be a key risk that we'll have to continually monitor going forward.
Thank you. Has that been helpful, Councillor McFarlane?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, very much reassured. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? David?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm looking at the little coloured boxes on the risk register where it goes red, yellow, green. And then I'm also looking at the risk movement where it says no change, improving or reducing. And I'm seeing it doesn't seem to be consistent across the whole of the whole of the document. Some of the movements where there says no change actually seems to be improvements in the lowering of the risk. So I'm just wondering why in some of these charts, an improvement appears as saying no change, or what appears to be an improvement is saying no change, whereas in others it isn't. There just doesn't seem to be a consistency across each of the pages.
Ross?
Yeah, thank you. Just for clarity, the top box is the current risk. The bottom box is the target risk, and the narrative saying change or improvement is where the previous current risk was. So that was, so if the risk that we brought in December would have been in, for example, if it was in the yellow section, is now in the green section, that's improving from where it was in December. So we have made changes to the current risk, but some of the target risks have stayed the same. So it's not comparing the two boxes, it's comparing the current risk to where it was in December.
Does that make sense? Thank you. I must admit, I mean, it's a good set of risk results in the paper, and I'm absolutely delighted to see that on the staffing and knowledge risk on page 37 that you know, we're increasing you know, some of the staff numbers, so that's a good news in that sort of field. So is there anyone else? Councillor Beretti?
Yeah, just on what David has said about those boxes, would it not be a good idea to have the previous current risk box along the current risk box so we can actually see that risk movement? I mean, I know that there's a bit of space in there and you could make the boxes slightly smaller, but it would make it easier for us to evaluate that slight change, because we don't actually see the changes. We just see an X and no change, or an X and improving.
We do see that in some other committees, that we have the three boxes. We have where we were, where we are now, and where we'd like to be. So I don't know if could that be accommodated. I'm getting nods from Ross. Ross, you want to come in?
Certainly, that's something that we can look at when we bring it the next version in December. We can take that on board and try and make those changes.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dorward.
Sorry, Chair, I'm having problems with my laptop this morning. Thank you for the report. It's page 37. You were talking about recruitment, which is great. But I have some concerns about where we are with it. Not concerns, just questions. So it's a niche skill, a niche team that we have here, and a very important team given they're dealing with pensions for local government and other stakeholders. So the issue there is that we don't have enough staff, and we've agreed that more staff can be recruited, which is fine. One, how are we doing with that? I know it's been recently, but how are we doing with that in terms, how confident are we of recruiting all these staff? So there's 2 permanent and 3 fixed term posts. How long would the fixed term post be for? That's an interesting, an interesting mix there. And is it within accepted budget parameters? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dorward. Ross or Isla?
Thank you, Chair. That refers to that particular piece of recruitment that you were talking about there, Councillor, refers to the pensions admin section, so that's my team. The fixed term posts are for a period of 4 years. That's to give us an opportunity to review all our systems and plan the projects, get the projects delivered on for McLeod and dashboards, which is why we've set it at 4 years. We're currently in the midst, we've recruited 2 our pensions officers posts and 2 pensions assistants. We now have vacancies and we're actively recruiting those at the moment. They're out to advert. So we're hoping, anticipating that we will have people in place round about October time, and then the comprehensive training plan begins.
Thanks, Isla. Has that been helpful, Councillor Dorward?
Yes, it has. Thank you. But an update would be welcomed by the next meeting. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm getting nods in the room now. We'll get an update. So, anyone else on this item? Don't see anyone online. Nobody in the room. With that, we'll go to the recommendations, which is members are asked to note the updated Dumfries and Galloway Council Pension Fund Risk Register, and 2, the Risk Register will continue to be reviewed quarterly by officers and on a half-yearly basis by the Pensions Subcommittee, and there's an action to get a report back as well. So thank you very much. We'll now move on to agenda item 8. This is the Pension Regulator General Code of Practice. This report provides members with an update on the work that has been undertaken by officers over recent months to complete the self-assessment toolkit in assessing the fund's compliance with the new Pension Regulator Code of Practice. I am pleased to report that there are no areas of non-compliance, with all areas being either fully or partially compliant. An action plan will be brought to the next meeting of this subcommittee with an aim to bring all areas up to full compliance wherever possible. But Karen Donaldson, Ross Fraser and Isla Herrick have been involved in this assessment and can answer any questions members may have. So I'll open it up to the floor. No one in the room? No one online? Okay, we'll just go to the recommendations. So, members were asked to note 2.1, the work undertaken by officers, and 2.2, the action plan for improvements to ensure there is full compliance. Happy to do so. With that, we'll move on to agenda item 9, which is the Local Government Pension Scheme Administration Update. This report is now a standing item on the subcommittee agenda and provides an update on the activity and progress of work within the Pensions Administration team, especially in relation to McLeod, dashboards and digital work. Isla Herrick and Stuart Clanahan are available to take any questions. So I'll open it up to the floor. Councillor Walters.
Thanks very much, Chair. Just on page 64, we talk about digital process, or digital progress, if I can read it properly. It says statements will be published on the Pensions Online portal by the 31st of August, and a communications plan is underway. So is that communications plan actually in progress at the moment? As in, are the pension members being contacted to tell them this is what's going to happen, or are they being invited to use this digital portal? Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Walters. Isla.
Thank you. We've had a communications plan in place for some time now since the introduction of the Pensions Online portal. We regularly promote that portal through Gov Deliveries and any other events and any communications that we have with our members, whether that's by email, phone call, letters, etc. In terms of the annual benefit statement for this year, the big push is on digital statements to get as many people onto the portal as possible. There are monthly comms going out supported by our colleagues in the comms unit to ensure that we get as many people signed up as possible, but we also have a fallback situation for those that don't.
Thanks, Isla. Has that been helpful, Councillor Walters?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nobody in the room? Nobody online? Okay, we'll just move to the recommendations. Members are asked to note the progress on key areas of work within the pension service, roadmap and the work plan. Happy to note. Yep. Now move on to agenda item 10. This is the annual training plan and record of training. This report details the new training plan for the coming year, 2025-26, and includes all known training events which the fund has been made aware of. Any new training or request for training will be presented to future meetings of this subcommittee. Ross Fraser is available to provide any more information that members require, so I'll open it up. No one in the room? No one online? No. Get away like, Ross, you wish something to say?
It was just I was going to offer to new members of the board and the subcommittee that I will be in contact with them regarding the pensions regulator training. That is a mandatory training requirement, which links back to Councillor McFarlane's point about the MiFID II status. We need all members to be to have gone through that training to maintain the MiFID II status. So that links back to the risk register point.
Thanks very much, Ross. I'm sure the new members on the board will welcome that. Councillor Walters.
I'm sorry if I missed this, but on page 75, where it lists the members of the subcommittee of the Pensions Board, presumably there should be 4 council representatives from the employers, and to match the numbers from the union side. I don't see any vacancy. Or if I missed somebody being appointed to the board that I hadn't noticed.
I'll bring Claire in just to touch on that point.
Thanks.
Sorry, the employers side, it's 3 councillors and the college to make up the 4.
Does that make sense?
Sorry, I missed that. There are 3 councillors and who?
Dumfries and Galway College.
Oh, right. They're on the same. Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Walters. David?
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, we've noted the changes to the constitution. To the membership of the subcommittee due to the council administration changes, but we noticed there are still vacancies. Could you give us some idea of how those would be filled?
Yeah, that was going to be my point. The vacancies, I'm hoping that with having new groups, there might be a possibility of getting somebody from those groups. But Ross or Paul? Ross?
Thanks. It is my understanding that falls to our governance colleagues. The make-up of the committee is a governance issue, not finance.
I'll bring in Claire.
Thank you. I can provide assurance that Mr Nick Evans is in contacting all the groups to ask for nominations, and David Ingalls actually filled one of those vacancies just yesterday.
Thank you. Has that been helpful? David?
Up to a point, thank you.
Okay, I don't see anyone else online. Anyone else in the room? We'll just move to the recommendations, which is to note the record of training and training plan for 2025-26. This is in the appendix. 2.2 is to update the updates to the record of training, and the training plan for 2025-26 will be brought to a future meeting of this subcommittee. Happy to do so. Yep. So we now move on to item 11, which is any other business deemed urgent by the chair. I don't have any, so we'll move to item 12, which is the Local Government Scotland Act 1973. Consider adoption of resolution to exclude the public from the meeting in terms of section 50A, brackets 4, and paragraph 6, part 1 of Schedule 7A of the Local Government Scotland Act 1973. We're happy to do so. Agreed in the room? So do we have another Teams meeting as well? Yeah, so if members online can move to the exempt Teams meeting, we'll just give it a few minutes.